morning, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is David Okun. I'm so happy to be here. I'm talking about work in the United Kingdom, and I'm also talking about pay, especially the minimum wage here in the UK. It's a statutory right and obligation given to workers and also employers. Stay tuned, continue watching this material. If you haven't subscribe to this YouTube channel, supporting it. YouTube actually don't charge you for subscribing. Subscribing is free. It takes seconds. And click like and notification bell and leave a comment. I mean, we need to talk, we need to discuss, we need to exchange views, and it's a nice thing to do. And if you happen to watch this material, share with family and friends. Let everybody know the goodness of these materials, the goodness of this platform. There are people who may not like this platform and the material in it. Do yourself a favor. Be around, because you might find something you like here and share it with family and friends. They may like it. We are our brothers and our sisters keepers. When I talk of work in the United Kingdom, I'm also talking about work around the world because of globalization and harmonization, government cooperating with one another. Things done in one country is done in another. So we are minded that what happened in the United Kingdom is not really exclusively United Kingdom, especially if you live in Europe, especially if you live in America, in Asia, in the developed world. We're looking at politics at the same time, looking at policies, look at society and life. In addition to looking at life, we're also looking at development generally, and also our culture. I would say our culture has really done, our development has done quite well. But our culture in the process, in the scheme of things, have suffered. And I've also said on many occasions that our hope for peace is cultural economy, cultural regeneration, education, valuing humanity, paying attention, prioritizing humanity over and above anything else, including wealth, including development generally, including technology, engineering. Everything comes second. Humanity comes first. To me, personally, live economy law. Recognizing humanity and valuing our lives is first and foremost. It is the key, the master key to peace. We can talk about this, we can discuss about this, we can use our brains. We have to think. The government can think for us, but we have to think for ourselves. We can learn going to school, training, doing education. But in the end, it is up to us whether we are happy, whether we are sad, whether we look at ourselves. We are the best. We are a species. Among other species, we are at the top of the food chain, if you like. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about humanity. I think we are the best. If we work together, we become strong. And if we value our life, we value the lives of other people. You see, if we stand tall, we become powerful internally, with or without money, with or without wealth, without political power or other form of power. We as a species are the best. And then the more we know, the merrier. We begin to live with peace. We come to terms with our life and we acquire internal peace, inter-human relational peace, interrelational peace. And we take care of ourselves, we take care of other people. We live with other people and we are happy. We work hard, we play hard, we look after people who need help in our society. This is the essence of our cultural, economic, our infrastructure, how it looks like. I promise at the outset of this program, the YouTube facility, this platform, this project, I promise at the outset I will be revisiting this notion of cultural economy, of developmental economy, of progress. And work sits at the core because it is a primary source of income. Work, and when I talk of pay, I think of income in the United Kingdom and also elsewhere. So we are in a good place in this platform. We are set to do many things on this platform, and I pray and hope you will be part of this great project. This fantastic economy of YouTube platform. So when you work in the United Kingdom, leave a comment below. Let me know what happens in your country. When you work in the UK, you get paid. So we talk about payment. You get money. Payment means money. It can also be payment in kind. We looked at that and in the processing of this material. And we say that you can get money, you can get other things. Holiday, the list is endless. You can get so many things from employers. You can get food, you can get accommodation. It depends on your contract necessarily, because the main element, the main aspect of legal relationship between employer and employee is contract, which is entered into freely. But there is a statutorily based relationship also, which obligate employer is also obligate employee to do certain things as of instruction at law and policy. Going forward, I will try to explain this concept. And also, normally when there is pay, when there is a contract, when there is employment in operation and payment involved, there are disputes between employer and employee and other interested elements within the working economy. Here in the UK, and I believe also abroad, wherever you live, whether you're in Africa, whether you're in America, whether you are in another country, there is always a similarity to repeat the point where they are mentioned. And particularly when you leave a job, when you leave work, the dispute even intensifies. And I'll be going through material which is you can access it in the United Kingdom online or elsewhere. You can go to a library. It doesn't have to be digitized, but believe me, we are in the age of digitization in terms of information and knowledge acquisition. So the internet comes to mind. Gov.uk is a website of the UK government comes to mind when you're looking for policies and practices in the United Kingdom generally, but particularly in terms of work. You can also visit the public website of Citizen Advice, which Citizen Advice in the United Kingdom is the single biggest advice service in this country, and therefore Citizen Advice leads in the advice sector, especially giving legal advice and other aspects of support across the globe. Is a leader, is a global leader. Britain being a leading global economy, and Citizen Advice sits at the heart of the British economy, British social policy infrastructure. I said this previously. I will, by the grace of God, continue to repeat this point. They are essential to this material and provide a very valuable relevance. A lot of people, by way of giving feedback, have been questioning the relevance of some of this material, but believe it or not, your life depends on this. If you do not understand whatever I am trying to talk about, use this material in spite of itself to ignite your curiosity. A good citizen, a good survivor is a curious animal. A human being who pay attention to something somewhere somebody is saying, whether they understand it, whether they don't. Is a good person, is a good survivor, is a good partner, is a good source of resources. learn and listen and learn and prosper, acquire knowledge, become knowledgeable, be wise, and do something with your life. The government in the United Kingdom, because of political reason, is changing society by closing down the public sector. The public sector is the primary source of help from the state to the citizen. If it is closed down, necessarily that is the case that it is therefore the case that the government is no longer helping you. It is happening now in the United Kingdom. We have the Labour Party just elected, and the Labour Party going forward will struggle to provide public service because of privatization. The private sector is not designed, and it does not provide the public sector, the public service. It doesn't provide public service unless the government supports it financially. If the government uses taxpayers' money, which is the public money, to support private companies to provide public service, then it is necessary, in my opinion, leave a comment below, for the government of the UK and the government of any other country to regulate a private company. If they don't regulate the private company, the private company will do whatever it likes. Because you see, we are born free, and freedom normally releases the best in us as humanity, but it also releases the worst that is in us as humanity. The private sector can be a force for good in exercising its free will, its freedom, which is what the free market encompasses. But the same private enterprising businesses and the economic infrastructure companies, the same can be a force to produce evil, in which wealth and power can be weaponized to persecute humanity and perhaps also destroy humanity. And therefore, education, especially in relation to cultural understanding, is essential in producing entrepreneurs, big businesses, small businesses, medium and small businesses, people who run businesses, who run the economy in the market, in the free market context. These, when they learn appropriate, the proper value of society, which centers on humanity, to value humanity as a priority, then they become good people. They will become good individuals who are running businesses effectively without corruption, without violence, without wars, instrumentalizing wealth to produce peaceful relationships, to produce peaceful discourses. The opposite is the case when we weaponize wealth, because we fail to access our cultural economy, failing to, in the process of failing to grasp our cultural credentials. We produce monsters because we fail to put at priority the valuing mechanism of humanity. It is all about humanity. It's all about prioritizing humanity, valuing humanity as a priority. I have repeated this point over and again. If you have been watching my videos previously and watching probably now again, you probably are already fed up listening to this, but it is so important for me to stop from time to time to reiterate these issues, and in every sense of the word reiteration. I will be repeating this point at the outset of this programming, of this YouTubing project. I have promised to mention the cultural factor, the developmental factor in the discourse providing our progress. And so stay tuned, continue watching. Let us go back to looking at work, to looking at pay, especially minimum wage. On this occasion, we'll be looking at when you leave work. People start work and they leave work. When you leave work, you need to be paid. Sometimes there is a problem. Employers will avoid paying employees, or if they pay employees, or former employees or leaving employees who are leaving, if when they don't pay them, when they pay them, they don't pay them everything, including maybe holiday pay they are entitled to, or some other elements of payment. And if you are working for a living, you need to know what your rights are. This is the essence. This is the logic of this program, of this information. It doesn't matter whether you understand it or not. Just the prelude, the preface I have provided to this video, which is now running into 15 minutes, is to give you the holistic sensibility surrounding this material. And when I begin to talk at the technical nitty-gritty, which I will try to humanize it as much as possible, because it is in infrastructure involving the law, and also involving policy, which is, in my opinion, is extremely complex and tedious. A lot of people like to be entertained. We want easy life. You know, doing complicated topics, especially social media, people are not very interested when it comes to dealing with complication. Which this material, in my opinion, I find it to be complicated because it is the domain of experts. I am not an expert. I do my research and I try to understand the information in the whatever way I understand it, one way or the other, and try to talk about it, and request you to look to watch the videos. Watching the video, having done so, leaving a comment to let me know what you really think. If you think it is nonsensical, if it is rubbish, tell me in a nice way, which is what social media is about. It's about being nice. Even if you disagree with something being said, like this material. This material is a continuation of what material I have already produced. This is in part continuing with the same material in the other video. In part, this is to continue, but also to provide a review of what I've already done. And at the same time, perhaps hopefully doing a preview, looking at the the landscape and the outlook going forward, and also reflecting on what has happened, what has gone right, what has gone wrong, what we need to improve going forward. And this, in part, is what I'm trying to do in a more formal way than normally done by experts. And that also to say, I speak not as an expert. I have never made that claim, but I just try to do what I think is important, and using this platform to learn together, to talk together, to exchange views. If you are a child, if you are an adult, it is extremely important to understand your rights in law, in the legal context, in the policy context of the world. There is no age barrier in acquiring knowledge, especially technically based knowledge involving, as I said, the law and policy. It's extremely important. A lot of young people are now interested in the environmental issue of the world, and they see it as the young people issue because they want to save the world. They love their nature. They love animals. You know, you look at cartoons produced for children in the UK. Cartoon program is full. You know, their characters are actually vegetables, fruits, everything. You know, water can talk like a human being. A dog, a cat, you know, a pig, a flying bird, you know, a crawling, you know, crocodile or whatever you call it. These are children's best friend because these are the characters they grow up with. The cartoon programs, everywhere you go, you find that animal, nature-based characters are there. This is good. It helps young people to come to terms with natural beauty, natural credential, but sometimes some children take it personally. They're being children, they become so attached to creatures. It doesn't matter how dangerous these creatures are. Things like snakes in Africa, poisonous snakes, pythons, anacondas, you know, things like Lions are not really your best friend because they are predators. They eat people. You are their dinner. If you are a child, especially if you are a child, they eat other animals. That's what I'm not really trying to denigrate nature in any way. We can support nature, but we as children, as young people, should begin to put fresh value on humanity. We as children turn into wizards and witches if we love animals and we don't really value humanity. And this is a cultural fingerprinting happening in our society with the media involved in cartoon. Let us, with cartoon program, with computer games, try to put more value on humanity, teaching young children that humans are at the center of progress. We are so valuable. We need to teach children peace. If we allow our young people to value animals and nature more than the human species, who incidentally are part of nature, except some media for adults, media contents for adults and for young people sometimes make you feel that trees and wild animals are more natural than humans. We live in towns and cities, but that is our decision to artificialize what would otherwise have been a natural environment. These are deep thoughts. These are discussions, in my opinion, of interest. Leave a comment below if you think it is interesting. If you think it is not, stay tuned. Continue watching. So much. Going forward, we are looking at how to solve problem involving property. Property, if you're working, there is a property involved, either a uniform or some other equipment given to you by your employer, or something you brought home, maybe a car, maybe a vehicle, maybe a PPE, maybe a type of personal protective gear, either something you brought from home to help your employment, or it could also be a property, type of property, maybe money, maybe something with the monetary, maybe gold. Maybe you came to work, you are carrying gold or diamond or jewelry, and you came to your employer to keep it for you, to save, keep it for you, or an employer give you something very valuable, maybe a car, maybe a luxury car. You take this car or vehicle at home, or a private jet, you are allowed to take it at home because you are a pilot. You are maybe driving Elon Musk in a limousine, and you keep the limousine at your place. When you are leaving work for Elon Musk, and you're going to want his property back. I mean, it's your property. And the way you deal with this property as an employer will determine how the issue of property is resolved, how it is solved. When you're leaving work, there tend to be dispute, and this dispute is actually resolved by looking at the law. There are laws and rules which govern the way property dispute is addressed in the place of work. So this is the kind of information if you work for a living in England, Wales, and Scotland and Northern Ireland. It really helps to solve some of the most common problems, can be costly problems. It may also lead to somebody leaving work, or an employer who is employing somebody leaving work having to access the help of a lawyer or a solicitor in the United Kingdom, or a barrister. These are expert lawyers who may or may not specialize in one area or another, in this case, maybe expert lawyers in employment, employment lawyers who are specialists. It's a very technical area of law. If you are interested, and these will be costly. You have to pay lawyers sometimes and also often, especially in areas as in the majoritarian case, where in the UK the government, because of its policy on the public sector and the public service, have done extensive cuts on legal aid. There are legal aid still remaining, but they are dwindling. They are getting less and less. More and more, the British people are unable, are failing to access justice because the British government more and more is now cutting the legal aid. The Labour Party just came into power to replace the Conservative Party, who ruled Britain for about 14 years. The Conservative Party, which just left power, were composed mainly of extremist members of parliament and also think tanks and funders for the party. The party economy of the Conservative before they left was very extreme, leaning toward the extreme right wing, and in the process of so extremitizing the party toward the right, they sort of the country in a way unprecedented before. So now, as I said, repeating also the point across the board, that most of the key public service and also the elements in the sector have been they have been sold off to big corporations, and these big corporations will be shutting them down literally, because big corporations can only operate a business if they make profit. And if there is the problem of income, such as we saw with the cost of living crisis, then there is going to society is going to produce an income failure, as we saw also with something called benefit in the United Kingdom, which is money given if you don't work, or sometimes if you work, and sometimes if you're sick, and for whatever reason, if you're maybe pregnant, if you're a wife or a woman. Well, only women get pregnant, but if you are probably a wife or just a woman, a normal woman who is not married, you get pregnant. But also, if you are the father of the child, there's also paternity pay, paternity leave pay. If you get a paternity leave, you're not working, the government will pay the father. And also, if you are a joint carer, maybe the father and the mother of the child, then they are statutorily provided a payment from the government to these individuals. So this system of income is either through working or through other form of benefits through the employer or through other sector of the economy, maybe the Department of Work and Pension, maybe tax office, and other elements of welfare facilitation in terms of income. That's why I've been insisting on talking constantly about the benefit, also which is the financial provision in the United Kingdom, but particularly about work. My aim to speak about work is to talk about income, and also income coming from pay. And we'll talk about pay. When you're leaving work, you may still have to get some money, because all this money helps you to stay out of poverty. I never said about privatization. I was talking about freedom, which is happening now. People want to be free from the government. The government is trying to respond in one way or another. And in the end, if we learn our cultural economy and doing whatever we do, whether we nationalize the economy, whether we privatize the economy, we are going to instrumentalize society, including wealth, including other instrumentation of society, being civilized to provide peaceful discourses. And that is what we need if we learn our cultural economy. If we neglect our cultural economy, we are going to weaponize, which is the opposite of instrumentalization, which facility may or may not be good for us. If it is bad, then we see what is happening in the Middle East with Israel and Hamas and Gaza and the Gazan, and also in Russia, Ukraine, and other parts of Africa. We saw serious demonstration in Kenya recently. People are dying because of violence. Violence is a product of cultural failures primarily. And going forward, I will be repeating this point. If you have been listening to this, enjoy it while it lasts. But also, if you feel tediously disturbed or distressed or disappointed, leave a comment below and let us have a dialogue and let us see how we can make a balance, because there are things, I repeat, which are so essential, which is so critical, the things I do. If I stop talking about our culture, if I keep talking about development as a principle, as a protocol of progress, if I fail to talk about that, then I lose sight of the entire exercise become futile. So let us look if we disagree about who owns property, because always there is a dispute. People either agree or disagree who owns property in working situation. People living work, specifically if people are living work, the first thing to look at is who owns what. You see, do you agree on one thing, or you disagree about something, or you disagree about everything? So if you agree about something or disagree about something, there are rules of law governing if people agree or disagree about who owns property at work when workers are leaving work. And these people would have been between employer and employee. Another thing you do is you also try to find out if your employer won't let you have your belongings back. There are times when you might fail to negotiate with employers. Employers come in all shapes and sizes. There are employers who are easy to deal with. There are others who are so complicated. It also depends on the value of your property. If your employer and you're trying to leave work, your employer refusing to give back your belongings, then there's a dispute. Maybe you give them a carat of gold, or a diamond rather, or a diamond watch. I don't know what you would have given for your employer to keep. It can be anything. Leave a comment below and give an example of something very, very valuable you own, which you have given to your employer and your employer has refused to give it back to you. So these are the things which are being governed and guided by employment law in the United Kingdom. So understanding how the law operates will help resolve this dispute between yourself and your employer when you're leaving work. These are specific material pointing to specific information. So when your employer will not refusing to let you have your belongings back for one reason or another, because sometimes employers tend to have a lot of power over their employees. So leave a comment below if you have been in a situation where your employer has exercised excessive power, and sometimes they would be producing injustice, because if you break the law in the process of being unfair or corrupt, then you're producing injustice, which law here, which is statutorily or sometimes contractually enshrined, try to provide guidance and also facilitation to try and solve such a dispute. And so when you leave your job, you will need to give back anything that belongs to your employer. You don't walk away with something your employer has given you, like a uniform. This could include a laptop or a computer, equipment, tools, mobile phone, company car, uniform, work documents. Leave a comment below, leave an example of a work document. What is a work document? Could be something in your computer. Could be a book, could be a guide and tools or something. So your employer must also let you pick up anything that's yours, like items left in your desk or tools, you provide it to yourself. Like I said already, this is just repeating something already said. So if you disagree about who owns the property, sometimes people agree to disagree. And leave a comment below why people should agree. Who owns a property at work? Does your employer own a property or you own a property? Who does own the property? Two people. I mean, an employer leaving work and an employee rather leaving work, and an employer also disputing over property. Who owns? What happens then in law, according to the law? What happens if you disagree? Who owns what property when you are leaving work? So normally, don't ignore your employer if they are asking for your property. If they are asking for property back, even if you think items are yours. If there is a situation where you're leaving work and your employer is saying you're living with that property, don't ignore the situation. Stop and think how to address it, resolve it, even if you think the property belongs to you. So you can check and see if you have any proof you own the items. When we talk about the law, especially if there is dispute, evidence is king. So if you are someone trying to help yourself, or if you are an advisor trying to advise someone, be sensitive to the idea of evidence. Evidence is sometimes referred to as proof because it provides proof that something is yours. In this situation, something is your property, something is not your property. When you go to the authorities of law, like in courts or tribunal, you're going to need proof. Therefore, it's your responsibility to gather information when you start work, when you are working, when you are leaving. Keep a record of your own. In my opinion, that's what I think is best to do. So, because we work for living, that's what we do. We go to school. Sometimes we work from home, at home, as children. We make our own breakfast, unless our parents make our breakfast, or our elder brothers and sisters make breakfast for us. We clean our own room. This is work in the informal sense of the word. When I say informal, they are not the legal definition of work, as I have already mentioned in the other video. Stay tuned, continue watching, and leave a comment below. Let me know how this process is going on, and are you also getting on going through it. And it's extremely essential that you look after yourself as a person. You take responsibility from school. If you have a property dispute in school, a friend lends something to you, record it into your diary on such and such a day and a date. You can do it on your mobile phone or on your laptop or on your notebook. As a child, as a young person, as an adult. Because when you leave work, when you leave school, you go to university. You finish university, you go into work. And if you have developed the habit of keeping a diary, you're going to gather relevant information. So we are looking for example, of proof, written confirmation from your employer saying the items were yours to keep. So if you have kept this information, which, when your employer gives you something of value and says to you, this is yours. When you're leaving work or anything, you don't have to give it back to me. Ask your employer to provide you a written confirmation that the things they're giving to you is actually for you, yours to keep. Because they may forget about it. They may forget about it. They may, when you're leaving, they're going to ask it back. Maybe they give you an expensive watch because maybe you're a security officer, maybe you're a chauffeur, maybe you're a pilot. Your employee is so generous and he's going to say, my boss has given me a very expensive watch, maybe a car. And then you say, when you're leaving, the car is yours, but you need a written confirmation. And this written confirmation should come from your employer, which says the items have been given to you permanently for keeps. And sometimes people get confused because the employer says one thing, and 6 months or 6 years later, the employer has forgotten. They remember they gave you maybe a car or an aeroplane, a private jet. And you are driving the car, maybe the car is already spoiled. Maybe you parked it at home, needing some expensive repair. And there comes a time your employer may forget that they gave you that material for keeps, maybe a car or a watch or a uniform or a computer. I have a computer from work. This laptop I'm using, I got it from my boss during COVID-19. This is a typical example. My boss gave me this computer when I'm leaving my service with this particular organization. And this laptop was given to me brand new during COVID-19. I have been using it. Now I have two laptops. I bought another one recently thinking it was going to be better than this because I need a laptop with a bigger memory. So my employer, my boss, so to speak, gave me this laptop. So when I'm leaving the service, one way or the other, because people come, people go, I'm leaving my service, I may be asked to give it back because there was no confirmation from my boss to say when I'm leaving I can keep the laptop. If I want it, I should ask my boss, please, can I keep it? Now that I'm going, they will say, okay, keep it. When they say, okay, keep it, unfortunately, you may, I won't go as far as that, but if depending on your boss, if your boss is somebody who can say things and forget it, I don't know how you're going to say that. I say, can you write a small note to say you have given me this? Because somebody else may come and check and see that this material is given to me. You may not be the boss, but you may move somewhere else, and another boss may come into the company, into the organization, and find that the computer was given to me, but it wasn't returned. You can write a small note and stamp it so that somebody else will not turn up and start chasing me for this material. So there should be a confirmation in writing, because written evidence is extremely a very weighty evidence. Evidence in court are weighed. You see, they are examined by weight. The more, the merrier of evidence for you to win or lose, respectively. Stay tuned, continue what you say.
MVC record.
Bravo, Jesus, turn the beat.
So we are continuing with this material, looking at these materials. So we already said there should be a written confirmation from your employer saying the items were yours to keep, meaning you don't have to return it back. So when you're leaving work, nobody should come back to you to say, You know what? You owe us your a computer. I said, I don't. What do you mean you don't? You were given a computer and you didn't return it. I have it in writing. I was given this computer for keeps. And then that is one aspect. They also a receipt from when you bought the items. If you think the item is yours, keep a receipt. And keeping a receipt is extremely difficult. Believe me or not, I bought so many expensive items in my house. The one thing I really detest to keep is the receipt. But keeping a receipt is extremely, especially if you buy a car, if you buy a computer. Normally when I go to buy groceries, I keep the receipt into my pocket. As soon as the groceries is in the house, I throw the receipt away because nobody is going to grab my shopping on the street and start shouting, "It's mine, it's mine." You know, some thieves are very clever. You're carrying your bag, they can shout, you stole my thing, give it to me. And then people will come, what has happened? I said, I have the receipt. Where is your receipt? And people will say, no. Then they will walk away. It doesn't happen in practice. But keeping a receipt is extremely important. And this should show when not really when you bought it. As soon as you buy something, get the receipt. If you're in a shop, make sure the shop assistant gives you a receipt. You go to some shop, especially small shop, especially when the shopkeepers know you. They give you an item. Maybe you buy a takeaway food, and they don't give you the receipt. You walk away. Maybe somebody attending to the shop. They say, where are you taking that thing? Did you pay for it? I said, yes. Especially if you are living in the UK, unfortunately, if you're a black person. If you live in a foreign country, something wrong happened, you are number one suspect, prejudice. So there's racial prejudice in Britain. There's racial prejudice in any country. This is nothing to do with Britain. But if you're a black person, you're living in a white country. If you're living in Europe, you're living in the UK, you're living in a white country. People will know you don't belong to a country like Britain. You're a black person. Even if you are born in Britain, even if you are raised here, you are British, people still associate you with foreigners. And you are prejudiced against, even if you are a saint. People will suspect you first. You get in the supermarket, security start following you because you are black. The police will arrest you first because you are black. And if you are white, you wouldn't have been targeted because nobody would know you're foreign. Nobody would think you are foreign because even if you are born in Britain, if you are white, maybe you are German, you are Italian, you are from East Europe, you are white, and you speak proper English, you are born and bred in Britain. People will not think you are not British. But if you're a black person, it's a different thing. The same in Africa, because Africa is a black continent. If you're a white person living in Africa, you're prejudiced. If somebody kills somebody mysteriously, the Africans will ask for a white man or a white woman. Sometimes in unfortunate circumstances, if you're in a minority, you can be killed because something wrong happened. I'm just saying it so that if you buy something, it is a matter of good practice. If something, maybe you buy a designer watch, you go to a watch shop, and watches in the United Kingdom are extremely expensive. You can get a watch, just a small watch like that, for £1,000. And if you don't get a receipt, I don't know what might happen. So this is interesting. Stay tuned. Continue watching. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. If you haven't got any evidence, check your contract. and any other terms and conditions to make sure there's nothing to say your employer owns the item. So that is the value of a contract. And also in a contract, there is something called terms and conditions. And that will, under these circumstances, this will provide a situation where you can prove that the contract, to make sure there's nothing to say your employer owns the items. In the contract, if the item is owned by your employer and there is a contract, there is also terms and conditions of the contract, then you are in a situation where either that contract will say explicitly the item in question is owned by your employer, and you also check that you demand, if you're in a dispute with your employer and you're leaving work, these are the elements, the information you can look at to try and protect yourself and also resolve any dispute between you and your employer. And also, as a general rule, you can use these. And like I said, you can visit gov.uk. You can also visit ACAS. ACAS is a body which participate in a conciliation, early conciliation in a dispute in terms of employment. They have really fantastic website. And most of what I am talking about could have been from the website of ACAS. It could have been from the government website, could have been from the public website of Citizen Advice, could have been from maybe a website from Shelter, or any of these useful websites. There are so many organizations now providing legal advice in debt. Also, food banks, they're providing food bank benefit, and so on and so forth. Stay tuned, continue watching. Thank you so much. So, therefore, now if your employer lends you an item, if you are an employer lends you an item, it is this item is lent to you, so you could do your job, but there's nothing to say you own them. You should give them the items back. Like I said, there may be legitimate situation. It doesn't mean necessarily that you have stolen something. It may mean, like I already said, I'm only repeating the point, that your employer must have given you a car, a vehicle, a Mercedes-Benz, a BMW, because you are working for them as a chauffeur. You keep the car 24/7. You drive it where you like. You put fuel in it, and the fuel deducted from your salary. Or maybe you are a security guard, or maybe, like I said, you are working as an advisor, and you're given a computer. Now, if it is lent to you for you to do your job as it is, maybe mobile phone, you shouldn't say you own the item. You shouldn't say that, because that will be dishonesty. It could lead to a criminal offense. It could be a civil offense also, but it could also be a criminal offense if you are dishonest, if you are trying to steal the product. So these are some of the things I'm laboring to explain. Stay tuned, continue watching, leave a comment below, and let me know what you are thinking. So then, therefore, you should give the item back if it is not yours. If it belongs to your employer, give the item back. So if you're sure the items belong to you, tell your employer you won't give them back unless they show you evidence they are not yours. So the opposite is the case. If you have evidence, especially if you have evidence, even if you don't have explicit evidence, if you believe it is not yours, you need to tell your employer to the best of your ability. I don't know in practice how you're going to do that, because he may still owe you money. He may still owe you money, and he may refuse to give back, pay back the money you were supposed to give, because he will be claiming you have some item belonging to him or to the organization. But if you know it's yours, don't give it back, but tell your employer if these things is yours, they should provide evidence to you. Ask for evidence from your employer. If the employer says this is my property, okay, where is the evidence? In the same way, they ask evidence from you if they think, if you think the evidence is yours and you want to give it back, you want to take it back, you don't want to give it back, you provide evidence to your employer, and they should also provide evidence if they think the property is theirs. Leave a comment below, let me know what you think about these situations. So sometimes an employer might say they will take money from your pay to cover the cost of the items, just like I just said, because some employers may be obsessed about their employee, even if their employees have worked for them for decades and they have been honest. So some employer may start behaving as if you are a thief for one reason or another, and therefore they may decide not to pay your money. They will insist that you haven't given back something you don't really have. You don't really owe them anything, but they will insist for one reason or another that you owe them something. You have taken their item, so they are going to refuse to pay your money. Leave a comment below, let me know. So therefore, they are not allowed to do this unless your contract specifically say they can. Now this is where the contract, if you work for an employer, be an expert on your contract, the contract between you and the employer. Sometimes contract doesn't say the employer should refuse to pay you your money if they are claiming you have their property, whether you have it or not. The law says unless it is written in contract specifically that they can take your money, they can refuse to pay your money. If there is a dispute on property, they are not allowed unless it is written on the contract. Leave a comment below and stay tuned. So if you are interested to know more, you can check what to do if your employer is threatening to take money from your pay. So as always, they normally target your pay, especially if the employers are either confused because they may not be sure. Look, they may be in a position of dealing with so many employees, but maybe some employer may be greedy, or they may be also be corrupt, or they are bullies. They want to make your life hell. So you can check what to do if your employer is threatening to take your money from your pay. They are not supposed to do that. If your employer really believes the items belonging to them, they could decide to take you to court. So in other words, your employer can take you to court if they think you have their property. The court would look at the evidence to decide whether or not you are to give them back. So it's up to the court now. It's easy to say on legal principle than the practical situation involving the law. And this is why material like this is important for everyone to master, to try your best to understand how the law works in a country, in Britain, or in your country where you live. You need to really understand how the law works, because it could save you money, it could save you your item. Maybe your employer may owe you hundreds or tens of thousands of pounds and they're not giving it back because they're claiming you owe them items to the tune of the equivalence of your money they owe you back. So maybe they're trying to avoid paying you back because there's a lot of money, maybe thousands, tens of thousands, sometimes maybe hundreds of thousands in pounds, and they are claiming you owe them money. You have their property, you haven't returned their property, they're not going to pay you the money. And that becomes a difficult situation in practice, because you may need a lawyer. If you have to go to court because the money, there's a lot of money at stake. What if you don't have money to pay a solicitor. You don't have a chance against your employer, and that is a policy problem, political problem, so to speak, where the government might not be in a position to provide help for someone, an employee who might not have money to access justice, to protect themselves legally against the employer who is corrupt, who is abusing the employee. Under these circumstances, if you have a member of parliament, you need to take this type of material, this type of information to your local MP and ask them to lobby parliament to change such a law, because it's a law of injustice to give so much power for the employer to potentially abuse employee the way they like. This is a typical example, because there is no access to justice, because there is no legal aid in most employment law disputes. There is no legal aid except for a few. But I believe the best thing, if you live in Britain, if you live in another country, if there is democracy, if you have access to your member of parliament, go and take this material to your member of parliament and show your MP a situation where you might be in a situation where you are being abused by your employer, and your employer is refusing to pay your money because they are claiming incorrectly or correctly that you owe them in property. You have their property, so they're not going to pay your money. Maybe the money is 10,000, even only 100. For somebody leaving work, maybe you're also having other problems. Maybe you're in debt. 100 is your money they should be paying, but not just your money not being paid. They could take you to court, and if you cannot defend yourself properly, who knows, you may lose. You may be, because you don't know the law, you cannot access the lawyer, and information like this are online. When the sun is shining, you can fix your roof, your legal roof, so that when your family member, your friend, if they're in problem, you can also represent them. You can be their legal representative. You can give them legal advice because you have information online. You have websites, and you have this video also. You can do your own research. If everybody can do that, they will be empowered to handle dispute in employment, and in this case involving when you are leaving work and when you are disputing over property, when your employer seems to be playing tricks or games on you not to pay you or one way or the other, and when you cannot access legal aid in a country like the United Kingdom. And if you cannot access legal aid, it is not rocket science. It is because the government has shut down the public sector by privatization. Privatization means shutting down the public sector. The public service may not have been shut, because theoretically, public service, when you shut down the public sector, public service will have been transferred to private companies to provide. But like I said, when private companies cannot make profit, they are going to shut down the business. And when they shut down businesses because they have failed to make profit, the public service transferred from the public sector to the private sector is going to be shut down, and it is shutting down. We will see with the health service now. If you phone your general practitioner, your doctor, because they are private companies providing public service, public health service, because the government is not funding them, they cannot make money. They are not providing public service in healthcare. So in the UK, we don't have healthcare anymore. We don't have dental care anymore, unless the Labour Party coming into power changes policy and start funding the National Health Service through the private sector. But if you fund the private companies to provide public service, and you don't regulate them, they might not actually. They may keep the money. And if they don't provide public service, the government will not know. and individuals who are sick, who are homeless, who cannot access public housing through private companies, or have no income. They can't afford to pay rent. They can't afford a public service because it's provided by private companies. So you find this problem also in employment, because employment is now provided by private companies. It used to be provided by public companies. So it's public service. Employment is a source of income. It's a public service provided by a private company. But the legal system is also a public service. In this case, provided by private lawyers and courts, which are now increasingly becoming maybe liberalized in the language. And if you don't have money, you cannot access justice in the United Kingdom. And this is a political issue which should be addressed by political parties, especially the ones in government, but mainly parliament. Stay tuned and continue watching. Thank you.
Some see the original, mighty the god, the magical radical. Hey, representing my magical. Young Jose, come million. Namego wacha, that defta. Kina teach me can you namego kopa. That wacha, kina damage me can you namego wacha. That defta. Kina teach me can you namego kopa. That defta. Kina damage me can you. Come to the camera, come on, there for the bed. The heaven, they say you're my baby. Every day I call you, my door, you're my treasure. Baby, got no machina, yo. If I be quacking you, but it's over some cola. Baby, got the machina. Baby, got your quara. You must say bandana. You must say bandana. You must say bandana. Baby, got no tema, come and quack.
So, like I said, if there is dispute, make sure there's evidence always. And evidence, the best way to keep evidence is to keep accurate record. You can set up a database on your computer. If you have a laptop, if not, get a notebook, a pen, or perhaps also a paper. Any important information, if you are at work, if you're out of work, any little incident happening at work, it can be brought up in your favor or against you. If you are in your favor, you may have to provide evidence that that information, that situation is in your favor. Provide evidence because you have been keeping record. And you don't need to tell anybody you're keeping record because that's your private record. In whatever is happening, it doesn't matter how insignificant it is, especially if it involves your contact with your employer, exchanging items. Maybe you are giving items for your employer to keep, or they are giving your item to keep. Especially if your employer is giving you an item to keep for work or their computer, like we say. It's important to keep information. So you should get advice also, like I said, from the nearest citizen advice. I have said at the start of this program that in the UK, citizen advice is the biggest advice service in the United Kingdom. In that way, it is also a world leader, because Britain is a world leader as an economy. Leave a comment below, let me know if you know anything about citizen advice. If you don't, go online and then do a research and find out what they are. It's a public website. You can get information. If you're an advisor, you can go to their professional website, which is what you would know. If you don't know, if you're an advisor and you don't know, if you're working for citizen advice or maybe volunteering for citizen advice, then you don't know, you should go one place or another, then you should think again. Now, normally, and if you are an advisor normally, and if your client's employer threatens legal action in a situation, in some situation, your employer may decide to take you to court, take legal action against you. Then you can, get advice from citizen advice or somebody else. But normally you can go to solicitor if you need to, because if there is a court hearing, you need a solicitor, and then you will have to go there. So you can help. An advisor can help their client to work out what to do if their employer is threatening to sue them or they get a demand for payment. Sometimes you are asked to pay money in lieu of the property if they think you have lost it or they think it is damaged. So it's a complex situation, because you see, the thing is that if a property is damaged and you are at work, you need to record it on your notebook and report it also to your employer and resolve it before you leave, because when you are leaving they may not listen to you anymore. But if it is resolved in one way or another, if say maybe you are using a computer and it crashed or if it fell and broke, resolve the matter, report it, resolve the damage. They may say, okay, don't worry about it. That's okay. You can take a note of it. If you are keen, if you know the organization is big, say, I raise a complaint on this matter, can you drop me an email and say, or you can write an email to your employer, say, thank you so much for helping me today to resolve this matter. In the course of my work, such and such a material was damaged, and I reported. This is the reference number for my report. Maybe it's best to report it in writing. Maybe you send an email to the person, or maybe to the PR supervisor. You send information to them, and they will always reply. When they reply, then you keep the record. There is a communication, you're reporting, and then there is a resolution. You write a thank you email, and if you send it to them, let me know if you need me to do something, or if this is now resolved. If this is resolved like we agreed, I'm just writing to confirm that the matter has been resolved like we discussed, like we agreed. You say to me I shouldn't worry, and I'm so grateful. If kindly confirm in this email that it is the case that I should now, in case we forget about it, raise the issue again, just to be sure that this matter is closed and I'm not liable for anything. And I'm so grateful. So if you can confirm this is the case, in case there is a misunderstanding, then please kindly reply to me. Either they will reply, they may not reply, they may phone you, they may not phone you. Sometimes maybe you can, I don't know what you can do. If they have phoned you, maybe you can keep the time they phone you. Maybe you can take a note on the conversation and link it a note to the telephone number and the time they have called, and the person who have phoned, their name will be on your phone, and you take a direct note. Okay, my supervisor phoned me at this time, and confirm the email I sent to them. So your phone will be linked to. We'll talk about evidence. We'll talk about weight, giving value to your evidence. The more evidence you have in a dispute, and the more relevant they are, and the more compelling they are in a civil dispute, you are more likely than not to be favored by the court or tribunal. Stay tuned, continue watching. Thank you for keeping with me this far, and you are definitely a champion. Having watched this far, it has been a robust discussion, and also very demanding to be at least, talking for nearly an hour is really a feat. I'll talk about what I think is rather interesting and perhaps also complicated. Is more of a feat. Stay tuned, continue watching, give me your feedback and let me know. So, so if your employer also will not let you have your belongings back, this is one of the things we have talked about. And going forward, just stay tuned, continue watching. So, like I said already, your employer should give back your things if they belong to you. If your belonging, your employer have your belonging, ask them to give it back to you. So your employer should return anything that belongs to you when you leave your job. For example, belongings kept in a locker, or tools you provide. Sometimes if you go to work, if you have maybe an expensive shoe, or maybe you have something you don't want to carry, every day on it because they are really maybe valuable. Maybe you need them for work anyway. You provide it for yourself. You're given a locker, and work is not uncommon. Maybe you have a mobile phone you keep in a locker for anything at all of value. Maybe a trainer, maybe a suit. Maybe when you go to work, you are going in a uniform. When you're leaving work, you want to leave in a suit, and maybe like you want to go somewhere, maybe something of value. It is kept in a locker, or the tools you provide it, and you provide it for yourself. It has to be returned. Such a thing should be returned to your employer. Sometimes an employer might refuse to give your belongings back, for example, because they think you owe them money or are keeping your property. Like I've already said, sometimes there is confusion because we don't keep evidence all the time. We don't keep records. We are not really astute. To repeat the point I already said. So it is really important to be diligent. You have to be your own manager. You can be an employee, but you have to be your own manager in terms of managing your work. It helps in so many ways to keep an accurate record, because it provides evidence. With the age of computer and with the skills we have, you can use database, you can use all the other applications to keep a record, and this is extremely important in practical life, especially if you're a young person. Young people think keeping record is a thing for pensioners because you have short memories. It may help you because you have so many things to remember, especially at a dispute. You may say something you remember in your head, but if it is written down, if it is dated, if it is contextualized, if it is incidents, if you have signed, if you have given structure to your information in terms of events, and you must have worked for the employer for 10 years or 20 years, you will be shocked things you have written down about your work life, about the information you have exchanged, material you have exchanged, things you have given to your employer to keep, things you are thought to be having, which you may or may have returned back. They are all evidence. You will present that to the court. You're most likely to win at the tribunal. You can even present your case in court with information like this, with primary information which you have written down, and it is going to be really difficult for your employer to win a case, and they may even be shocked the amount of detailed information with names, because in court you are allowed to give names of your employer, the people you work with, the person who took your thing, when they took it, what time, which location, where did you put it, what is it called. Detailed recording is extremely important when you're dealing with the practical legal applicability in the context, for example, this employment facilitation. So speak to your employer also as soon as possible to ask for your belongings back. Do not shy away, do not assume, do not walk away. Speak to your employer, they are humans, and whatever you discuss, whenever you discuss it, wherever you discuss it, record it, the incident, the encounter, the experience with your employer. You ask for your things back from them, because if you don't ask, they will assume you don't want it. They will say they have destroyed it because they didn't know you still need it. They may even charge you for that, for leaving it there, because they will be paying for storage. They can ask you for money. Why did you leave your thing here? We are charging you for storage, and you're leaving something very expensive. And you try to get it back, you're not going to get it back. And they might still cut your salary, your pay, because they will claim you walk away, you left your thing, they kept it, it cost them money. So they can twist things around. I'm not saying that is what happened, but be prepared in life, especially if you're on your own. Especially if you know you might not access a lawyer if you are an employee because of lack of legal aid. So these are really important situations. So they are not allowed to do this, but it can sometimes be hard to get your thing back. So if you are not comfortable speaking to your boss, you could try talking to someone in the HR department. The HR department is the Human Resources Department. They deal with employee issues. They are probably also supervisory in some sense, or get help from organizations like trade unions. If you are a member of a trade union and trade unions are disappearing rapidly because of the political landscape involving industry and trade, so even trade unions are lacking resources. They may, even if you are their members, they may not help you that much. We have experience of this. Be your own helper. Get all the help from professionals, including trade union, HR, advisory body, lawyers. If you have a friend or a family, they can pay for your legal bills. Try your best if you can get legal aid, but believe it or not, the chances are you're not going to get legal aid. Ask if you can send someone else to pick up your belongings, or get them from a colleague if you are not allowed back into your workplace. Sometimes if you leave, you are banned from going back. Then you can use your network. It's not really ideal, but sometimes you need to do these things. You need to be aware these are your options. You can do it, you can choose not to do it, but a lot of times people do not really think they have the right or even the options to do one thing or another. This material, this program is there to provide guidance. If your employer wants you to pay money to return their property, ask for a breakdown of what they think you owe. So this is important because they can ask for anything and put a burden on them. Let them give it. They may even fail to give a breakdown because if they are making things up, it may not make sense. But if you also have your evidence, it may not make sense. If you ask them this in writing, you will provide evidence because they may not provide a breakdown. And if you're going to court, you present yourself, you can have more evidence in your favor. Show them any evidence you have that you don't owe the money or that the property belongs to you. Always evidence. If you own something, show them evidence. If you are evident that you don't owe them money, I don't know what evidence you have that you don't owe them money. That is really a difficult one. Leave a comment below. Let me know if you want to provide evidence that you don't owe them. Maybe they lent you money and you paid it back, and they gave you receipts, and that is good evidence. Or you send a valuable thing back, and there's evidence that you return something. That is evidence. Stay tuned. If negotiating doesn't work, you need to take your employer to court to get your belongings back. So going to court and trying to look for your belongings is about evidence. It's about keeping records. It's about being aware of your options. So this is important information. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. But many people think you can call the police to help, but this isn't true because this is a civil matter. The police is a private matter. It's a contractually based matter. But I can only say if they explicitly say. If somebody owes you your property, they admit to owing them and they say explicitly, we are not going to give it to you because we don't want to, you can call the police. That is a criminal offense. What is called hybrid offenses. First of all, there is evidence of civil breach that they owe you money or property and they're not giving it back to you. And deliberately, they just say they are not, because that is theft. If somebody says, yes, I have your thing, I'm not going to give it back to you, automatically that becomes theft. A crime, you can call the police and explain to the police. Thank you so much for coming this far with me, and I'll see you in the next material. Leave a comment below is so important. Leave a comment below. Also, clicking like, clicking notification bell so as not to miss on the next video. And also subscribe to this YouTube channel to support it. The best way to subscribe a content creator is the subscription. Click just the subscribe notice. It takes seconds. It's free. See you in the next one. Thank you. Bye bye.
MVC record.
Bravo, Jesus!